Hello, fellow alchemists. Welcome back to our series on how you can parse XML. So we've gone ahead and went over Suite XML. Now the next thing I'd like to do is actually go over how to use Saxy. And I saw quite a few people online who were interested in how to use Saxy. So Saxy is basically following the... Sorry, I forgot what it's called, but it's some type of way to parse. I believe it's using the Sax type. I can't remember exactly what it's called. And it's basically something like a streaming line-by-line kind of way. And the way you do it's actually quite simple, but it is a little bit complicated. And we're going to do this together. I haven't practiced before, but we're going to do this together. It's not too difficult. And so, of course, when we do this, we always start off with a test. For sure, something over here that we can do is that we can actually start to reduce some of this work. So we can have a setup method. And over here, we can read the data, and then just basically return the XML string. And just grab the XML, because we're going to need this to use the Saxy parser. Nearly the same. Sorry. But of course with this one we're going to be called Saxy parse. And of course we're going to have to write this method, but we're also going to have to pull in the library itself. And so it should be Saxy, and the latest is, I believe, 1.2.2. Now if we grab our dependencies, there we go. Now how this one works is going to be a little bit more work, but it's okay. It's going to kind of basically pay off. So let's go ahead. Let's write out our spec. So our method, of course, is Saxy parse. We're going to take a string and return a list of person. Now, with the way this one works is underneath, we need to actually just use Saxy itself. So there's a method called Saxy parse string, which of course takes in the XML string. And also we need to return the handler and some state. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make a Saxy handler. And this one should be XML parse dot Saxy handler. And since this is for people only, I'm going to do dot people dot Saxy handler. And I'm going to put this one into here. And this one has to follow a specific behavior, and that behavior is called Saxy handler. And there's a couple of methods, and basically you just handle events. So there's going to be a parser coming in the background and basically shooting events at your handler. And so you have a handle event for when you start the document. And this one always gets called first, and you're going to have basically the prologue in here. So the version of XML, etc., and of course your state. And then whatever you return, you need to return an OK tuple and the new state. And for this one, we can just return the existing state. And so what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to put an empty list into there, and then just return the empty list. I don't really care about the prologue; it doesn't really make a difference for us. But we do have a couple more events to take a look at. One is called handle event end document, which is what you have to return something. So that one, of course, will just be some kind of data at the end and the state. And again, of course, we can just return OK plus the state itself. And this is going to be what gets returned at the end of the parsing. And because this one, again, is only one line, I'm going to do this. So let's pretty straightforward. And then we also have start element. And this one should come in with the name of the element, along with some attributes, which we don't really care about. Those are just, those little tags, little attributes on those tags. And of course our state. I'm going to leave this alone for right now. And of course we're going to have end element. And this one will just be the name of that element. Of course our state. And for this one, we just, of course, keep that empty for right now. And then finally we have this one called handle event characters. Let's put chars over here at the state. And then of course leave that empty. So in all of this, basically these things is what we need to look for. This characters gets called basically for anything that has text on the inside. So we're actually going to be using this quite a lot. So we have this, if you take a look at our file, we need to basically prepare for a person and also the name and the age. So this can be a little bit tricky, but it's not too bad. So what we can actually do is that every time we get a beginning element of person, we can prepare a new person struct and start to fill in the details. When we have the beginning tag of name, then we just need to check for the characters and we pull that in. Same for the age. It's not too bad. And yeah, that's all we need to do. So a little bit tricky, but not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start to build up something. So this state by itself I don't think is necessarily enough. So what I like to do is I like to actually define a struct in here, which is going to be my real state. So of course I'm going to have my, I guess I can have a people. That's going to be my list of people over here. And so at the beginning of this one, I don't really care what this is. I'll always just create a new state object. By default, it's going to have people with an empty list. And let's see, I'm going to have to keep track of what elements I run into, right? So there's going to be basically starting of a person. So this one is called, it's called, let's take a look again. This one is called person. So when I have a new person, I need to get that one ready. And I have a name, right? So I definitely need to match on the name and the age. So what may make sense is when we match on a name, so we match on a person, we should actually probably prepare some type of person. So maybe we have something like a current person. And that one, of course, alias the parse people.person. We'll just have person over here. Default that to nil. And we'll have something like a current field, and that will also get default to nil. So when I have a person, what I want to do is take my state and basically create a new person. So on my state, grab this, make the current person into a new struct. When and I end on a person, I want to take my state and take my people and basically just put them on top. Current person. And then I have my people. And finally, I can also take my current person, set that back to nil. And for any end elements that I don't care about, I can just make sure I return back OK in the state. For any start elements I don't care about, but I can just say the data in here. I can just return OK plus the state. So now the next thing is that for this one, I can do something similar over here. Don't really care about the characters in this case. I can return back the state. And then for when we actually end the documents, I just want to pattern match on the people. And just return back the people. And let's see. But what I do care about is if I do start to, I just like to make it nice and tight like this. Format. Now the next thing is I actually have to match on these elements over here. So what I do is when I get name or when I get age, then I need to mark that as my current field. So what I do now, let's see, sorry, I'm still going through the handler. Okay, so if I happen to get the start element of name, then what I can do, return OK, update my state to do current field is set to, I could just use name in here. And then when I get characters, and the state has the current field set to name, then I can just take my state, update the, so let's update the person, update the current person with the, this is not looking so nice, current person's name set to the chars. That should be enough for this. And if we get single event, and our ending on name. And we have our state. And our current field is name. Then we can return state current field male. There we go. Let's just fix the formatting. There we go. So theoretically, this should start to give us people with a name. So let's go ahead, let's run our test to see how we're doing so far. So for this parse string, the next thing we need to do is give it the handler itself. So that is the XML parse people.sexy handler, and we don't care about the state, right? We're just returning this. So this one. Okay. So now if I run my test, we should be getting something similar. Okay. So we get okay with that. So now what I can do is make it easier. We can pattern match on the people. Makes it a little easier. How are we doing now? Okay, so names are there. They are reversed though, so what we can do is that we can just reverse it at the very last step, not a big deal, but you can see that now we're just missing the age. Now next to do for the age, we just basically copy the same style. So we can literally copy this, paste that, get to the age, we put an age in here, and we do this, over here, age, male. In fact, we don't really care too much about this. Let's just leave it for right now. And what we can do is we could just always set this no matter what. So we can just do this. No matter what, we always just kill off the current field. That should make life a little bit easier for us. Of course, except for this one. That one we need to keep. That's a special case. Name, age, chars. So finally we do this. Chars, name, name, age, but for this one, this age has to be updated. Why is that? We have to actually parse it out. So string.to integer. And then we have to stick the age into here. So let's try it now. Age. And elements. This one we don't need to match on that. No big deal. There we go. 18 and 20. So now all we need to do is just basically flip these. So when we end the document, we could do a simple, I believe it's enum.reverse. We'll flip it. There we go. So that's how you can start to parse with Saxy. It's a little bit more complicated, but if you take a look over here, 22 seconds, and you see over here, 5 milliseconds, sorry, it's 22 milliseconds, 5 milliseconds for parsing out with Saxy, and 17 milliseconds for parsing this out with Sweet XML. So in a future video, I'm actually going to show you how we can actually benchmark this and get some better ideas on what's going on. So until then, this is Alan from Plangora. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I have another video coming out which will show you how to benchmark this, and after that, how we can make this even faster. So please stay subscribed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks, bye. Hi, please feel free to ask us any questions about Elixir, Flutter, or anything else in programming. Here's our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll answer your questions every Friday. Ya Mantai Ge Duck Man All. Yo Wenti Ji Da Wen Wo.